Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves is a new adaptation of the popular game series, but this is a tough one to do because the game it's you make it up as you go along. There's a narrative that is built upon by all of the people playing the game at the time. And so to try and make a movie around it is an interesting choice, but it's not like they haven't tried it before. You may recall in the 2000s they tried something with Jeremy Irons in it. It was something.
Let their blood rain from the sky!
But now we're a long ways away from that, and in this movie we're telling a totally different story, being led by Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez. In this movie, a charming thief and a band of unlikely adventurers embark on an epic quest to retrieve a lost relic, but things go dangerously awry when they run afoul of the wrong people. I just read the IMDb synopsis, and the reason I did that is because there's a lot more going on in the movie that even the trailers don't give away. And so I don't want to really go into what the actual thing is about. I would rather just keep it to what it is. And I didn't exactly know what to expect from this movie. I didn't exactly go into it with a lot of expectations. I thought, well, if it'll be a fun movie, hopefully that'll be enough. But I was still very curious to check it out, and I saw the star power attached to it. There's a lot of great actors and actresses involved. And I have to say, after seeing Honor Among Thieves, I was very happy. I'm very pleased with this movie. I think it's gonna be one of those films that will end up on some lists which are like biggest surprises of the year or something like that. Because Honor Among Thieves is a really, really good time. And it's led by a very charming cast who is all having such a great time. Chris Pine is awesome in this movie. He's having a blast. And so is Michelle Rodriguez. She's an absolute badass in this film. Always has been, continues to be. But some of the other characters on the side, such as Justice Smith's character, who is a budding sorcerer who's trying to figure out his stuff, and Sophia Lillis, who is a druid, and she can change her shape, was one of the highlights of the entire film. I actually thought that her character was one of the more interesting parts of it, and so I have a feeling that after this is over, a lot more people will want to see more from her. But also Regé-Jean Page, I'm sorry if I got that wrong, I believe that's correct pronunciation of him. He was also really good in the film. Really, everybody did a really good job in this. I think the entire cast really, really brought it. It's also just very fun and very entertaining. This is made by the same people who made Game Night a few years ago. If you haven't seen Game Night, I highly recommend it. It's a very funny film with Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams, and that film was a good time. And so the humor of that carrying into Dungeons and Dragons seems like a pretty great idea. I mean, it is sort of like a situation where you can have a lot of really dark humor play out, and the movie uses a lot of that because there is a lot of that present throughout the entirety of Honor Among Thieves, and it's very fast and very energetic, and it's a good time in that sense. And I think it manages to sort of like capture that feeling to the fullest degree. It's also got some really great action sequences. There's a couple of things which are really, really impressive. There's this one sequence with this shapeshifter druid character that involves going through different places and changing, shape. And it's basically like a one take. It's sort of framed like that. It's really, really great. And that scene was really awesome. But as it goes on, there's a scene involving a dragon, which is really, really great as well. That was super entertaining. And visually, the film was also really, really good. I thought they really did a great job with some really great stuff over here. Some very clever visual stuff as well, because you can do that. The thing about D&D is that if you're going to make an adaptation, which is based on something where you're going to be imaginative, you're going to be, as creative as possible with what you can do, the film has a couple of moments in particular that really managed to strike that very, very nicely. And at least in some really great sequences. There's some stuff they do involving portals, which was also really, really fun. And they try to make it in a way that simple things can affect that, and it causes like something that seems like a minor inconvenience in maybe another movie is a major inconvenience in this one, because it's like, well, now you have to figure out another way, and so you have to plan along with it. And so if this fails, try this approach or try this approach, which it happens a lot in D&D, because you'll be at a crossroads and you'll have to think about what's the next step. What do I try next? this is something that another D&D adaptation at the moment is doing really well, and that was the Vox Machina show. But then that's already based on a pre-existing campaign, and so it's able to adapt that to the screen. But I have to imagine at the time that it was being played, it managed to have a lot of those things where it's like, how about this? Let's try this. Let's try this. Oh, that's not working. Let's try this approach. So I think that way the film manages to capture that really, really well. And surprisingly, it's heartfelt as well. There's a very emotional storyline involving Chris Pine and his daughter, which was really, really great. And I thought that was very affecting. And it helped the film considerably because so much of it is built around that as well. And I thought it was very well handled, and it led to a really simple but very, very effective storyline. I would say in terms of issues, I had a couple. One, I think the villain aspect of it, Hugh Grant, and there's other thing going on, which was okay, it's alright. Didn't really, whatever. It was kind of underdeveloped. And I wanted to know a little bit more about certain things. There's one villain character who's basically like, I want to destroy the world, and I want to do this and that, and it's like, okay, end of the world stuff. Also, it runs slightly long. It's 2 hours and 14 minutes, but I think it could have been at least 10 minutes shorter. Like, there's definitely a point where it just ever so slightly extends its welcome, but overall it still manages to come together really, really nicely, and it leads to, like I said, a very, very fun movie. And if you get a chance to check it out over the next coming week, I believe it's coming out on Friday, but they're having a lot of early screenings happening at the moment. If you get a chance to see it, I highly recommend it. I think you'll have a good time with it. And like I said, it is a very surprisingly fun film. I think it'll be one of those films that'll be known as one of the bigger surprises of the year. And I had a really great time with Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, and I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to more reviews very, very soon. If you guys got to check out D&D the movie earlier this week or at the screening today, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the movies.